No pressure.
Live.
And we're
Hey,
live. They figured it out.
She found the button.
All right. And we're here with Dave Friedman today, and the great Dave Friedman. And who knows what we're going to talk about? It kind of depends on the chat and what you all want to talk about. And I know that Dave and Ron will geek out like they usually do when they get on the phone together.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat because we don't know what we're talking about yet.
Well, I could start with something.
Okay.
I remember the first time we met Dave because Ron and I had just a tiny little piece of Diamond Amps booth, and we were showing off I think the amp gizmo and the rack gizmo, and all of a sudden I hear Ron go, "Oh my God, that's Dave Friedman! He's coming over here!" And I'm like, "Who's Dave Friedman?" And yeah, I remember you coming over and going, "Hey, I need that. Can it do this and this? Can you change it? Can you make it do this and this?" And that kind of started off
RG16 prototype.
getting to know you there.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that. That was a lot of years ago.
That was 07. Yep.
07.
Cannot believe it's been that long.
Wow, that's crazy.
Years. Yeah,
that's crazy.
But yes, we owe a good deal of our success to Dave, so we'll publicly thank him right now and getting us pointed in the right direction at the beginning and all that. So that's
and then you ran with it.
Yes, we did run with it.
Well, I see Access Electron, or I see Mario's here.
Hey, Mario.
Mario, what's going on, buddy?
I was just talking to him earlier today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we owe our success to you because the funny thing is, most guitar players don't know who we are, but most of the guitar techs do. And I think it's because we immediately ended up getting into all of these really large rigs, that we're touring. And
you're the industry standard probably in the US for switchers and or MIDI controllers. So
it's a small market.
there really isn't anything as full featured or as professional with the editing software and such on the market for a pro market. There really isn't. So.
Yeah, well, we just been just trying to listen to people and what they need is the thing, and just try to keep improving and just not rest on our laurels, just
right.
Have the new stuff coming out. So that's,
you got to feed the machine.
Yes.
I know that all too well. You got to feed the machine.
Yeah, you can't just have nothing because then people don't think you're in business anymore or something if they don't hear from you,
Correct. You just got to keep coming up with new things and discontinuing old things, I guess, and coming up with more new ones.
Right. So on that note, what's your new thing?
Well, the other day I think yesterday actually, technically we released finally, it's been in the works for a long time, the Synergy BE Deluxe module. So that modular system, if someone doesn't know who Synergy is, it started years ago with Bruce Egnater and Randall, and then Egnater itself, and now there's Synergy. Synergy is the newer version of it all, and we've had modules with them. We had through how many? 1, 2. We have 4 modules with them currently, but the BE and HBE module has now become a BE Deluxe module with all the bells and whistles. So it's 2 full channels. You can either channel can be either sound, and it's got a little saturation switch, and it's got some other stuff inside that you can tweak. So you can have whatever, whatever you want it to be. You want 2 lead channels, great. You want 2 crunch channels, great. You can do whatever you'd like. But yeah, that's been in the works a really long time. Like it goes back. God, it must go back almost 2 years. Or a year and a half at least. I mean, it was started just before the fire at the BAD factory.
Yeah, that's yeah, you're packing a lot. I know what size those modules are. You're packing a lot of stuff in there now, like kind of maxing out what you can do in it, I think.
Yeah, that's really cool. We got another release coming August 9th that no one really knows about.
Oh, we got the scoop.
That's coming August 9th. Well, someone might know what it is or guess, but I sort of accidentally it was accidentally sitting in one of our Tone Talk videos.
Oops.
But that'll be out. And that's just around the corner, literally. So, and then there's some more stuff in September.
Excellent. So you're not just like hanging out and just, watching TV or something. You got a lot going on.
I don't have time for. I just got back from vacation, so that was a nice break for almost a week. No, not quite a week, but went up to Lake Tahoe.
Nice.
Which is fun. Nice up there.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get some other questions in here. If you've got them, go ahead and post them. But how about what's the largest rig you ever did?
Oh man, the largest rig,
or one of the large ones?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm trying to think what the largest one is. I don't know. I mean, I've done rigs for Mark Tremonti in the past, long ago, and that was reasonably large and elaborate in what was going on. Although he's sized it all down to almost nothing. That was big. Steve Stevens' rig was always on the large side, or in the past, quite reasonably large. I mean, that was like an amp rack, a effects rack, and a power amp rack when it was in its largest state. Now he has a very large pedal board, utilizing your switchers.
Oh, nice. Really?
Yeah.
I guess
it's some of the mini effect gizmos, the older versions, and the floor controller he has. Wait, wow. I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Pretty sure.
Okay. And then a pretty big rig I saw in person. Ron and I saw Chris's from Foo Fighters.
Yeah, we just did Chris Shiflett's rig. Yeah. And that was, a big step for Chris, from going from just a pedal board with a loop bypass strip across it to a full-on RJM switching rig, with the GT22 and everything, and he loves it.
Oh, awesome!
He loves it. So.
Yeah, and that thing was pretty tall. I mean, that was how many spaces?
I think it was like a 16 space rack or something, so it wasn't like huge, but yeah, it had basically mimicked what he was doing with his pedal board, and then he uses he put everything in stereo now, so he uses 2 B100s in stereo, and he uses 2 Voxes in stereo, so it's four 4x12 cabinets.
Nice.
Across the stage.
Not many people do that anymore. That's
no,
good.
He does it proper.
There you go. No messing around.
No Kempers involved.
Who else is using big rigs right now that you've done?
Big, well, I mean,
or bigger, rack based, I guess I'm saying.
I mean, I've done Slash's rig that he has out on the road. Two of them. He has 2 backlines. Richard Fortis also with Guns N' Roses. They have good size rack rigs with pedals and things going on.
Yeah, they just ordered effect gizmos, so I think they were getting backups there.
Yeah. So, in the olden days before you guys, we used to use pre 2007, we used to use old GCX units, and we always used to have to heavily modify them.
Oh, really?
To do what we wanted to do. Yeah, we often normaled the loops together and did things like that, and made some changes and things. But I just had to do that to one recently.
Like
It
a
was
good
like,
little
wow,
blast from the
I think I
past.
remember how to do this.
Yeah, that's they're still selling them, huh? They still
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's ready for an update, but
yeah,
it's actually probably 10 years past update. You know,
yeah.
I think their Ground Control Pro too is it should have an update. It's about
Yeah, I think
20 years past due on that,
I mean I've
but it
never spoke.
works.
Yeah, hey, it does, and
It
you know,
works, but there's no editor, there's no nothing, so there's no song set mode, there's no,
yeah,
for a
it's
basic cheap pedal, it works great. Yeah,
yep, still does the job. Yep.
still does the job.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I used all that stuff as like the sort of the what I tested against when I was designing our
yeah,
stuff. Like,
yeah,
make sure that like the Ground Control Pro was actually pretty even for as old technology slow processor. It would actually send MIDI messages like as fast as possible.
yeah,
That the MIDI would allow, and so it was very good at actually shaking bugs out of like the RG16 and all that because
right.
you set it up to send all the IA buttons at the same time. That's for at least for a 2007 product that was actually a fair amount to deal with. And so I figured once I had that going, it would if I could get it if I could get it to handle that, it could handle about anything, which was
Yeah,
good.
yeah, it was. To be honest, it still works. It's still the
Yeah.
ground control still works perfectly fine
Oh,
if
yeah.
you don't need the features of
And so,
yours.
yeah, and Mario, we owe a lot to Mario of Access because I think
Hell
we,
yeah, Mario made excellent products.
yeah,
Which we worked on. It's just a very similar story, actually. When I
he and
came up
Ron
to
are
you,
so similar.
it was very similar with Mario. He was making, I don't remember what he was making first, but he was making some little doodads, and I contacted him early on, and it was the same sort of situation.
Yeah, he was before us. I think he said 98 that he
Yeah,
started.
yeah, way before.
Yeah,
And that, I mean, he was making great, way before anyone was doing it with the editor and a great MIDI pedal, expandable, awesome.
totally.
So,
Yeah, we owe a lot to Mario. So he's got a question.
yeah, what about my 50-watt Plexi? It's coming. And that is not one of the releases I was mentioning yet.
Okay.
People know about this. I'm doing a vintage line of some amps, and it's been talked about. So it's no surprise. That is in the pipeline.
All right. Let's see. Next thing, I owe so much to well, thank you, Victor. And then the next thing, Jerry Cantrell. So he
That's a
had,
big rig. Yeah.
okay. Is that one you did?
Yeah. Jerry Cantrell. Yeah, his signature amp with us.
What's
So,
what's it have in it? Do you remember?
man, it has effect gizmos, a couple effects gizmos. There's a rig rundown on YouTube that Sweetwater did years ago with me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
boy, that was a story. Maybe I'll get to that story. Maybe I won't go into that story actually.
Okay.
Because maybe I'll tell you later about that one.
Okay.
But, it was a funny thing how that worked.
Interesting.
But yeah, he uses two amplifiers set differently. Two of his signature amps set differently. In the loop of one amp, there's some post-processing. It's a DD500, I think, Boss DD500, and just for a kind of an ambient delay kind of thing. And then all the rest is a pedal drawer in front of the amps, essentially. So it's one amp set cleaner, one amp set dirtier, and the dirtier amp has delay. So it's cool. Sounds it's probably one of the best sounding rigs I think I've ever heard. It might just be him playing it.
So, fingers are important for sure.
Automatic talent boost.
We went well on this thing. So when we did this rig run through with him, it was something Sweetwater wanted to do. So I Generally with Jerry, you have to go through the management. I mean, Jerry will agree to it, but then you still have to go through the management to set it all up. And they were going to be in somewhere in Indiana, somewhere somewhat close to, I'm trying to remember where in Indiana, somewhere close to Sweetwater, not too far away. And so, you know, I was going down the path of the management thing, and it took a long time. Okay, I'll get back to you. Okay, I'll get back to you. Well, why should we do this? Okay, I'll get back to you. And then finally goes, yeah, let's just do it. I mean, this was like 2 weeks of this. And then, and I finally, like at the last minute, Sweetwater, I emailed him, okay, we're on. We can do it. Oh, we sent the crew to a different place. we're you know, we didn't really hear from you. And I'm like going, I spent 2 weeks on this. What do you mean? And we can do it. And not only can we do it, but I was in Michigan, so I could drive over there and do it with them. So, you know, it's the perfect situation. You know, they made it happen in the end. They made it happen, you know.
Worked out in the end. That's good.
Because they were telling me no, and I'm like, I called someone there and I go, you know, I worked on this for 2 weeks. You really shouldn't say, and I can be there. It really shouldn't be a no. You know? And where was it? Where was it? In I don't know. Anyway, I was in Detroit, and I took Sammy Bowler with me, or one of our artists, because he lives in Detroit, and we South Bend, Indiana, I think, was it where it was, and we went, and we walked in the theater, and we walked up, and they were sound checking. Walked up, and Jerry has his cabinets off stage, just blowing in the wind towards whoever walks by. And Sammy and I are standing maybe 15 feet in front of the cabinets, right between the two of them. And we're kind of just looking at each other going, oh man, that sounds good. So
that's cool.
That's the story.
Excellent. That brings up the question I've never asked you. What is the most amazing godlike tone you've ever heard? Like, you know, in all these years you've been doing stuff, what's the stuff that just floored you? Either your own stuff or someone else's stuff, or, you know.
Oh man, I mean, it's interesting. Well, you know, I don't know. You know, some sounds over the years that I've heard out of Steve Stevens, for sure. Always got a great tone. Jerry Cantrell's rig sounds. You stand in front of those cabinets, your jaw's on the floor. Nice. It's really good, and it's in it. You know, a lot of the players, it's really in the hands. You know, it's like the players have certain hands, and they just sound a certain way when they play, and a lot of that has to do with that. I mean, really. I mean, some of it, of course, has to do with the equipment, but a lot of the tone is in the hands, for sure, from player to player. So, you know, those guys are great. I mean, Eddie Van Halen, also great. Unfortunately, I never got to stand in front of the rigs when he used to use his old Marshalls, but I did see in 1984. I did see the 1984 tour of Van Halen, and that was pretty crushing. For sure.
Well, you had to be pretty young. That had to be before you got into the business, right?
Oh yeah, it's way before I got it. That was when I was a teenager.
I was 14. Yeah.
Well, I was for 84. See, I graduated in 87, so I would have been 18 when I graduated. So do the math. Yeah, not far off.
Didn't know that you'd be soon helping him on his rig.
No, that's very weird. So during the course of from the period of 1981 through 1987, I saw every conceivable concert that ever came through Detroit. I mean, like when I mean everything, I mean it's amazing how many I actually went to see in that time frame. Yeah, and it gets a little confusing sometimes. I'm like, well, I know I saw them. Now, were they opening for someone, or because some of them, I mean, I saw Def Leppard open for someone.
Oh, wow.
So it's on the Pyromania tour, so that was right when the record had just and it was just picking up and it was just getting somewhere,
Yeah, I was in high school for that too. That was quite something when Pyromania dropped.
Yeah, that was huge.
It really blew up for him.
So I wanted to ask, so I remember Ron did something. I remember we were trying to figure out, like we had decided no more custom stuff. And then you're like, oh, can you do this for Eddie Van Halen? And Ron's like, I have to do this. This is for Van Halen.
Yeah, yes, it was a mixer.
Yeah, we got it done. And then he changes his mind like he changes his underwear.
Yeah, he changed his mind. It didn't get used. And I still have them.
I do too. I have like the proto.
Yeah, I have. I think I have. Well, I know I have one. I know where it is even.
We should have had him sign it so we could have sold it, right? For like $10,000.
Yeah. That probably would have been good in retrospect.
Of course, he never used it, so I don't know that it would be worth anything.
The most limited product we've done, I guess. Yeah, it's that one I couldn't pass up. I mean, it's find it hard to.
It was very specific for his needs.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. But it's kind of funny, because there was switching also involved. But there were switches that were going to switch the switches. Funny though that some of that stuff there's a market for some of that now. Again.
Yeah, we're
small market, but enough for a little run of something. Just
I mean, we're doing an actual line mixer now, and just about to have that out, and it was just a little tiny thing, but we figured something that was more pedal board friendly, and so I mean, it is amazing.
You got to send me that still to check out.
Okay, so it comes out August 2nd. It should come from our manufacturer in Washington.
Yeah, I actually, we were talking about headroom and all that, and I just it kept bugging me, and it's like, I need more headroom. I'm like Scotty from Star Trek or something. I need more headroom. And so I did some talking, made some new friends at TI, and basically, so we can get now 8 volts of headroom out of a 9-volt supply. So that's pretty happy with that. It's like, I think if my math is correct, plus 9 dBV. So that's pretty good. And then, if you want to give it 12 or 18 or whatever, then you're
just using a rail-to-rail op amps or.
Yeah, but it turns out you can't just do that, or not with all of them. There are more parameters that interact with each other than I had originally known. And so the original rail-to-rail one I was using was it was rail-to-rail pretty much, but then there were some other things going on with the offset voltage. And anyway, so it got weird, but now I've got a very cool, been mining all of the new, more recent, OPA op amps, and they have some pretty darn cool ones. So
OPA 16 something.
Yeah, there's a lot of 16s.
A lot of 16s.
Yeah, I hadn't paid attention. I've just been, for all those years, just kind of been using the old reliable ones. But somewhere along the line, I had an occasion to look at that and didn't realize they had all these newer ones out. And, there's some cool stuff there. And they're still doing audio specific stuff, which is great. Which a lot of
there's one specifically that was we've used in a couple things. It's a 16 some. Of course, I can't think right now, but it's actually designed for guitar amps and guitar audio, and it even says it in its description.
Yeah. So it's nice that it seems like a lot of semiconductor companies don't their interest in the audio world is limited at best, most of them, and so it's nice to see that they have audio specific engineers, and they're still coming out with these chips and all that stuff, and so pretty cool to see that. So that made, this little, line mixer in a Hammond box possible, because there are some, the nice thing
Okay.
is they're real tiny.
So tell us more about the line mixer. What other features, or what else did you put in this one?
Me?
Yeah, sure. I'm sure Dave wants to know.
Let's-
'Cause,
Oh,
Well,
the little guy?
Okay.
There's not
yes,
much
okay.
to it, right? It's a little one.
Yeah, it's little. Yeah, it's okay. It's yeah, so basically it's just four in, one out, and it's basically three of the ins are the considered the wet inputs, so they're stereo and just basic. That's what they do. The dry input is yeah, has a buffered input with a much higher impedance, and then it has some jumpers inside where you can set it for mono in or stereo in, mono out or stereo out. So you can use that as sort of to drive a splitter to go to your wet pedal inputs and things like that. And anyway, so it just tried to figure out what how I could maximize doing something in a small box that could be useful on a pedal board and kind of do everything you needed to do. And so and then the other thing, 2-level controls, one just for that controls the 3 wet inputs together, and then one that controls the dry input feed to the mix output.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool.
So yeah, so it's a little bit more than our other mixer did, and just I was just like, let's make something that can do wet, dry, wet on a pedal board, and that was kind of the impetus. And it's surprising, there've been a lot more interest in that. I don't know if you've seen that with rigs, but get a lot of people asking about it, and I hear a lot more people talking about parallel and wet, dry, wet than I would have expected in this day and age. There seems to be a resurgence, I guess.
Yes. Yes. Somewhat so, yes, for sure. Wet, dry, wet on a pedal board. It's always interesting.
Yeah.
So
People don't always know what that is exactly, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some people say, like, I don't know what it is, but I want it. Effectively, it sounds like a good idea, but I don't know what it is.
Sounds like there's so much involved with that, though. So wet, dry, wet. You have people that it's just how it says, it's a dry cabinet, and the wets are 100% wet. That's one way. With that, it's relatively easy to do, and there's not much problems. Well, the problems come in if you want to have the dry in those outer cabinets also, which is how everyone, like all the big rigs that used to do that, Eddie Van Halen and Steve Stevens and everything, they had dry in the outer cabs. So you can't just plug some effects in and do it. You have to have an analog dry path into the outer cabinets in some fashion, which the mixer would do.
Yeah, that was the intent.
That would do that. And often it's almost better to have dry in those cabinets, because if you set up a rig, you don't have to, but if you set up a rig that way, you have to let a sound guy know how they should treat it. If you set it up wet and dry, where it's all wet, set both all the mic inputs at the same level. Don't change anything. And that's what you should do. You shouldn't be boosting up this or just taking this or doing that. It's going to sound wrong, awful, not what intended. Sometimes it's almost easier just to do the dry in those cabs.
Yeah. So yeah, it does seem like it's that was part of the reason why I thought it was kind of interesting that people are getting interested in it again, because it's just it does seem to add some complexity, and you're hauling multiple cabs potentially and things like that. But
it's really good. I mean, like if you just want to do a wet, like even a wet dry thing, it's really can be really cool just to have 100% wet. You don't need a big amp or power amp to do that with. You can use a variety of things just for the wet return. And it doesn't have to be very loud, because you're not if you really think about it, that wet is probably 25% or less of the dry tone. So it's really doesn't need much volume even.
Mm-hmm.
But it's great if you have more of a vintage style amp and you want to get sort of the post reverb or post delay sort of sound. It's awesome for that.
Yeah, it's like you have like a line out tap out of the main ab for one or something like that. And yeah, I just finally actually built for the first time a wet rig back here. And,
you were showing that last time on Tone Talk.
Yeah. So that was fun. So yeah, it is super fun to have that really immersive sound. Especially if you got some really get some really cool delays and reverbs going, and it just fills up the room like nothing else. It's super fun.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
Oh, we have an important question, I see.
Got
a few. Well, what are you drinking? Let's see. It looks like somebody wants to know what you're drinking.
Cooper wants to know what you're drinking, Dave.
Someone sent me a bottle of Balvenie Doublewood Scotch.
Oh.
Wow.
So I never actually have to buy liquor anymore because people tend to just send me stuff.
We've had people send us wine from France. That's
nice.
Great.
Yeah,
that was really awesome.
Super nice, really.
And chocolate.
Anyone want to send me wine from France? I'm in.
Well, chocolates and candy and all chips from Japan too.
Yeah. Our Japanese distributor, every time he comes back from Japan, brings something.
Yeah, we have some great customer who's sent us several care packages from over there of all sorts of unusual Japanese snacks. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
All right, I got another question.
Should you? Sure.
Dave says yes.
Absolutely.
Let's see. I know there was another question too. Let's see. I wonder if it disappeared.
Bruno had a question there.
Yeah, Bruno, but I can't find it right now.
It's 4 below the one you're looking at.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So did Jerry Cantrell use both the preamp at the same preamps at the same time?
Yeah, so the rig is the pedals in front, the front end of the rig is mono, splits into both inputs of the heads, and then in the loop of one of the heads is a DD 500, and I think that's it. It used to be more elaborate. He had eventide time factors for a while. He had even a DD3 for a while. There was a mixer for a while, but eventually it came down to, because the DD500 is an analog drive path, so it worked perfectly. We didn't have to fuss with the mixer or nothing, and it's that. So it's not really that. It's just wet dry, basically, and one is more distorted and one is cleaner. So one of his amps is set on what's called the JBE setting, which is a higher gain, more saturated thing, and the other one is the BE setting, which is just not that gainy, and his gains are back around 6 also. So if people think it's that gainy, it's not as gainy as they think.
Okay, so Cooper said he had a chance to stand directly next to Jerry's cabs on stage last year. Rig sounded fantastic, Dave.
Yeah, pretty crushing. It's really, really good sounding.
That's awesome.
I'll have to check them out. I haven't seen them in a long time. That'd be
they put on a great show. It's always good.
Yeah, that's cool. So hey, I have to have a self-serving question here. I need to know, what's the state of, here's a really geeky one. What's the state of vacuum tubes in July 2023? Because I need to know what's good now.
It's kind of almost back to normal in some respects. It's still exceedingly costly and a little bit hard to get Russian tubes. So those are sort of off the table for us. A tube that is double plus shipping what it used to be for a Russian tube.
Yikes.
So our cost is double.
Wow. Yeah.
Our cost is what retail used to look like. You know,
Yeah.
and then the best part about that is if you get a batch and then, you know, a good portion of them are bad.
Oh.
Right? And then you're just looking at it and go, this costs that much.
and it goes in the trash.
And it's bad. And then we're gonna have to argue with them to get them to take it back.
That's fun.
So that, I mean, that's put a little bit of a damper on some things. JJ's going strong. They were extremely back ordered for a while. They just had, after the pandemic and stuff, they had lost some people, or some people just retired in the end, and so they couldn't meet the demands, you know. So they were just they for a while they weren't taking any new orders at all directly from them, just orders that were already on the books.
Yeah, right.
And that's when all that tube thing happened. You know, it was all kind of like crazy. You couldn't even get anything for a minute. And then there's the newer Chinese manufacturer PS Vane.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask about that.
They're still going through growing pains a bit, but something recently just changed for, I think maybe for the good. Originally, the original Chinese plant, the Shugang factory, was going to reopen, and that's what everyone was told until real recently, at the last minute. All the workers, all the lead engineers, everything went to work for PS Vane. So now everyone that was involved with that, Shugang is not going to reopen, but all the people went to PS Vane. So will that mean ultimately better stuff down the road? Yes, I think so. And it is getting better. There's been some growing pains with some of it, but I mean, we use the EL34s and they're great. They've been great so far, at least. We've had a little growing pains with a few of the other ones, but you know, it'll work itself out.
Okay, that's cool.
They all sound good. It's just a question of if they're working right.
Right. I see the yields in the batches.
Yeah.
So is that what is PS Vane what's going in your current amps now?
We use PS Vane EL34s. We did have still a bunch of EL34s left that we were working our way through, but the PS Vane EL34s, yes. Some JJ preamp tubes in sensitive spots, and then PS Vane, a certain kind of PS Vane 12AX7 in the other slots, which they do sound good. It's just a question if they were working right.
Got it. Okay.
They did have some noise issues, some crackling issues and stuff, but the latest ones have been pretty good. It's not bad, not too bad.
That's cool. Yeah, I kind of go through phases of like kind of leaving my amps alone, and then I go through phases of like screwing with them all, and you know, retubes or just building one just for fun and all that.
Yeah.
So I gotta get back. I'm getting back into that phase now, so I gotta get back on the.
You know what? Whatever's going to make you, whatever, if it's fun, great. Because I'll tell you, you know, you work in this industry for a while. If you can find some fun that makes you happy, do it.
Yeah. And
just keeps you mentally sane a little bit.
Yeah, but that's, you know, and that actually even just literally like an hour or two ago, I had stuff cranked up and I was running some stuff in stereo and things like that, and it just having that, you know, massive, you know, just playing with, you know, through you know, a couple 100 watts of amp, and you know, just having this big massive thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, this is why I love this. You know, it's like you know, just having that, you know, power at your fingertips, you know, and
yeah, that's why. Oh, I remember now.
It's like, oh yeah, this is really cool. I forgot.
Yeah, I remember now. But sometimes you get caught up in your work for you know, so long, and it's after a while you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
I got to do it.
Yeah, I have to say that one of the in the past few years, one of the amps that surprised me the most was I have a Dirty Shirley Mini
Yeah.
And that's I love that, man.
Oh
It's
yeah, that's great.
it's just there's I don't know, there's something about that it's kind of it's clearly modded Marshall, but I guess it's kind of has that little bit of vintage flavor to it or
Yeah.
something, and the three mode switches on there makes it a very versatile
He gets
thing.
very giddy about your amps for some reason.
Oh yeah, well,
Well,
Yours does it
gonna
to
get
him.
another
He's
one.
giddy.
that's right. Yes, he's got another one coming. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Make some noise. Yeah, no, it's fun, man. That's why I do it, man. Gotta still just gotta justify my gear habit. That's what this whole business has been about.
It's a write-off. It's a
That's
write-off.
right.
Our research and development.
That's right, man. It's all
And
written up there, man.
done some stuff for you, right? I don't know what we're allowed to say.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be careful because it's like I'm not always sure what I'm allowed to say or not allowed to say.
Yeah. No, you just did a little MIDI board for me for something.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm not exactly sure what that's going in yet, but it's going in something.
That's right. We'll have some nice.
It might also be able to be retrofitted in some things.
Yes, it's very tiny.
So, it's very tiny.
It's
little.
Fits anywhere, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So
I have a question
I have
for
to
Dave.
check it out.
Yeah. Gotta hook it up at some point. But
yeah,
just let me know if you have any questions with it.
And if you think of another question to geek out with, go ahead, Ron. But I was just thinking, Dave, it seemed like you were modding for a long time, and it took you like 20 years to be, or I don't know how long, to be an overnight success. What is it that finally pushed you over the edge from doing all these mods to finally like becoming really well known?
I don't know. I don't know if overnight, but
Well, I was teasing a 20-year overnight success.
Compared to the before,
Well, one Republic, I was talking to Drew once, and he was like, "Yeah, we're a 20-year overnight success." Like, they were working on it for like 20 years, and then all of a sudden, everybody knew who they were.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I did AMP projects with some other companies along the way, and then eventually I wanted just to do my own. And in 2009, we kind of started doing that, or maybe 2008 even. And then when that started taking off early on, for sure. I mean, like a lot of people adopted that, Jerry Cantrell and Steve Stevens and a lot of, clients of mine. I was fortunate to have already an established like clientele and career for doing this since like 1990, 90-ish. So, I had the ear of the audience, so to speak. And that made it a little easier, for sure. But you still have to have a good product. If you don't have a good product, it's not, there's nothing you can do, and you can have a good product. And if you don't have the, way to show it to someone, also can be horrible too, it's just like that won't work,
Who did you learn from?
Learn AMP stuff from?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say the mentor for me would be Bruce Egnator. Yeah. He taught me a lot over the years. So, so I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah. Bruce is awesome. We're big Bruce fans around here.
Yeah, Bruce is awesome. We love him.
Yeah. So.
And because I was involved early on with Bruce in his original IE4 preamps that he made, so that we were partners.
What year was that?
That was like 1990-ish, I think.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so we were partners, and I learned a lot when we started doing that. But I was already starting to do rigs for people, and it's just like how that came about was a client of mine, Randy Jacobs, who was the guitar player and was at the time. He came in with a Soldano preamp that Bruce had modified, and I knew Bruce from Detroit when I was a kid. I had stuff done by him and stuff, and he was the guy in town. And he had a Soldano preamp where the center channel was modified to, and it was like, oh my God, that's great. It's so much better. The second channel is so much better. So it's awesome. And I called him up and he remembered me and stuff. And I'm like, hey, I could really help you with this. You know, we should do a preamp. And that's how that came about.
Oh, wow.
And that kind of launched his success too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's, you know, until he sold, I was a partner until he went to work for Rocktron.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That is so interesting. Yeah, I didn't realize you guys had such a long relationship.
yeah. And yeah, that's how that started. So that was,
yeah, that's cool.
That was fun.
It's
But
funny
you
how,
know, but when I started in this business, and I started when I was 18 years old, I started working for Andy Brower Studio Rentals, which was a big instrument rental. Huh?
Was that in Detroit?
No, here.
Oh, okay.
Here in LA. When I moved to LA, I went to work for him. And that's how I started in the business, and it kind of snowballed over time, you know. And then I worked for the retail. He got into making music at the time, and I was then went from the cartage guy to the retail guy, and I had already started doing rigs at that time, and I just learned. But that's how I am. I can't. If I don't know something and I'm interested in something, I just learn everything I can about it. It's just, you know, mostly self-taught, you know. That's just, I'll seek out every bit of information, and, you know, I don't know anything. I'm still learning.
The more you know, the less you know, right?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. You know, but I have lots of experience. So, you know,
yeah,
real world like experience, like, so, you know, sometimes that really helps.
Yeah. So what was your time? I'm trying to remember your timeline with the amps, because I think probably the first time I ever heard your name was like, I think it was with regard to like Billy Howardell and Naked Amp.
Yes, that was the first set of amps I made. So that was early 2000s, I think.
Okay, so that's
I had modified an amp for Billy Howardell that was kind of based off of a Naylor amp, and but it kind of was twisted a little bit into the Marshall, so it was a little different. And then he wanted me to make him other amps, and I made him a couple other amps, which he still uses to this day. And then for a little short while, I made like some all handmade Naked amps that were, some went to Japan, some went to a few other artists here and there. But, you know, this is kind of pre being able to sell stuff on the internet. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't pre-internet, but it was infancy stages of internet, you know, when this started, you know, and it wasn't like, hey, here's my stuff now, and you can put it on your social media and this and that, you know, like,
right. You didn't have,
you didn't really have a way to promote. So it was kind of hard to do, you know, it was kind of hard to do.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where that started. But then in 2008, after I did an amp with Roy Blankenship, the Variplex amp. Right. We sold quite a few of those for a small company. I mean, over 100, maybe a couple hundred. And then eventually that sort of ended because Roy went to work for Diamond Amps, which was in Texas or something, and forgot he had moved. And then they were going to make his amp line, and then that eventually he came back, and I just did my own then. You know, started my own, did pretty well, and then I got involved with Avi, which is boutique amps distribution, which, you know, that's when we were doing pretty well already, but that's when the real wide distribution started happening.
Yeah, they have the distribution and the
we had
manufacturing.
Give Avi a lot of credit for that.
that did seem to be where things
Yeah.
kind of blew up for you in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so that's it's a quick, streamlined version of the story.
And there was a Marsha in there somewhere too.
Marsha.
Marshall was the first ones in 2008.
Right. Okay.
Until Marshall sent us a cease and desist.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Ooh.
They did
And
not.
then,
Really?
and then it was Friedman.
Got it. Oh, yeah.
Really?
That's probably a safer bet.
Yeah. Marshall sent a cease and desist. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Brady Bunch.
I guess you could have argued that, but we weren't in a position to argue that at that time.
Maybe it was better to go Friedman anyway, right?
Yeah, and in hindsight, yeah, for sure.
Maybe they did you a favor on accident.
Yeah. Now the Marshalls are worth more money.
It's wild.
These little crazy gnats flying around in our shop. Every once in a while, like there's somehow some gnats get in here, and it's just like, what the heck? There's no food or anything.
They're probably trying to get some of your whiskey there.
No.
If they may have a dead one or two in
there. Can't have any.
Careful. It's too
they
good.
Can't have any.
Can't have it.
No.
All right. Well, any other questions before we wrap up, Ron? Got any other?
Wow, it's so short.
I know it's. I know
of your 2-hour ones.
I'm not used to that.
I know we should mention for probably everyone who's on this already knows this, but in case you don't, Dave has his own live stream Tone Talk on Fridays also at 6 Pacific, correct?
Where we got
well, it's a lot of times on Fridays. Actually, this week it will be on Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, because we're doing a Eddie Lentz, which from Germany. So he's in Germany. So that time-wise, that works out. We have a European guest. It's generally Saturday mornings.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. You're trying to be nice to the guests.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like 7 p.m. their time. So it's not going to work much different,
Yeah. You gotta
do that.
We owe it to you. This live stream was because Ron was on yours, and I've been bugging him for a long time. Like, let's do a live stream, and then you can answer some of these questions that people have wanted to ask you. And plus, he gets to geek out.
Yeah, we just get and just know after doing this long enough, we know a lot of interesting people who
deserve
have good stories.
Hero.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's. Yeah, I mean, how I started with the Tone Talk thing was, it was Mark was on another show that I was interviewed on, and then Mark left that show, and we were in contact, and I'm like, oh, why did you leave? And then he told me the whole sordid story of why he left, and then I'm like, well, maybe we should do a show. But of course I said, but here's the deal.
You do all the work, right?
You have to do the guest booking and the running it and all that, because one, I just don't have enough time in the day for anything, and I mean, I'll help get guests and stuff, but I can't do the running it essentially. And he goes, okay.
Who was your favorite guest ever? And don't say Ron. I'm not looking for you to say
favorite guest ever.
What was most interesting?
A favorite show ever is my Jakey Lee show.
Okay, so we'll have to go.
It's a train wreck of a 4-hour show.
Really?
4 hours, man. You guys have the endurance,
4
man.
hours and 4 hours of drinking on air.
Why was that the best?
Because it was 4 hours.
It was fun. And the first 2 hours is okay. when you start towards the end, it's starting to get a little ugly for me. But you know what? Everyone goes down in history. Everyone says that's their favorite show.
Really? Okay, we'll have to watch it.
I think they like seeing that happen. They like to see the train. Wasn't a train wreck, but they like to go down that path. It was a great show, and there was some kind of shocking things that were brought up, and just he's a good storyteller, and he's witty, and it's a good show. Also, the Grover Jackson show was great. I think that was our first show, maybe. Grover Jackson.
How long you been doing it now?
6 years is what Mark
said that.
Yeah, that's what Mark said.
6, something like that. Yeah, I don't. We 140 plus shows.
Well, the other reason we decided to do it is Mark said, "I've been doing this for 6 years and I've never heard of you." And I went, "Oh, okay. Wait, we got to get our name out there." Like Ron's always designing, and we just haven't had time to do marketing.
My head buried in the sand most of the time, or buried in my computer, and yeah.
You guys have some marketing help now, don't you?
Yeah, Mario, who's helping you, and then
also thanks to you
and Mike.
Yeah.
We owe you a bunch.
He's awesome.
People helping us finally.
We love him.
Yeah, Mario's great.
Yeah, he's great. So
both Marios. There's both Marios hanging out today here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because Mario from Access Electronics.
Yep. And Mario's here too. The other Mario.
He was there for a while. I know it was his wife's birthday, so I know he had to leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Jason Tong is here. Hi, Jason.
And then Greg Davis. We love Greg. He's our guy at ST Micro who helps us a lot too. And
he's our rig builder. He's our microprocessor man, our supplier. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. And go ahead.
I was just saying, Greg's got a question for
you. I see. Yes.
Well, let me see. Where's this question?
Pop it up on the screen.
Yes, I'll try.
Totally can do that. Why do you have one of my amps?
How available is Dave for doing custom tweaks to his production?
Yeah, just email me friedmanamps@gmail.com and I will get it.
It's only $100,000.
There's actually more, but no, I can do it. I still do tons of that stuff. I look at custom things as sort of R&D work. Someone wants me to do something custom, and I'm just like, oh, I got an idea. How about we do this? And we try it, and if it sounds great, great. If not, well, I do something different. But really, actually, it's full on R&D work all the time, because I'm doing always custom stuff. This is like, fortunately, in the rig building, we have less custom stuff to do. Today than we used to years ago. I mean, there was a time when there were no commercially available power supplies.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
None.
Had to wire up some transformers in a box and stuff.
Yeah. There was no commercially available power supplies. We used to hand drill boxes to make power supplies. And then Voodoo Lab came out with the isolated 8-output isolated power supply.
It's a genius move on their part for sure, and I'm sure.
Yes. That worked out well.
And that must have been a cash cow.
Yeah. Done very well for them over the years.
Done very, very well. And then, and finally, they did a switch mode with the Pedal Power 3 switch mode power supply, which is great.
Cool. Now everyone's got a power supply.
Everyone and their brother has a power supply now.
Yeah. And
it's funny, there's one company that does a lot of them for all these companies.
Okay.
So
interesting. That makes sense. I mean, it's a very it's a pretty specialized thing, because we tried. To be honest, we actually were gonna get into that game like years ago.
I think we brought it to one of the NAMM shows, actually. I think it was like,
oh yes, I remember.
It didn't work well enough to bring it, but we had a prototype, and it just but
I remember what you were gonna do.
Yeah, we were trying, and just Ron and I realized, like, his wheelhouse is MIDI, and there's certain things he's good at, and we've just got to stay in what our core competency is, and that's what we've kind of realized.
Oh, because that was the only time I actually had enough, hired out the engineering for something, and because I basically found this guy. It's like a PhD guy who was all about switch mode stuff and that kind of thing. And this was really early days of switch mode stuff, and I think he overcomplicated it a lot. It just never worked right. And eventually we're like, we've sent this guy a lot of money, and I'm not sure I like the results. And
right.
So and at the time, which is silly now, but at the time I remember thinking, it's like, who's going to pay $300 for a power supply? This was pre, Zuma and supplies like that. And, now it's pretty
We
tough.
probably would have done really well. We had thought that out quite a bit if we had gotten the right person.
Yeah, we were, it was early enough, but what can you do? It's only a couple of us. We can only pull ourselves in so many different directions.
Right. Yeah, that's hard to compete in that market. To do that, you need a company that can produce that stuff for you and make it.
And then you need the distribution.
You're not going to make it in the U.S. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible. Not in compete price wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
impossible to almost make anything here. I mean,
Well, we do. We make all of our stuff here.
Yeah, but it's hard.
It's hard. I mean,
it's not simple.
Yeah,
no, it's not cheap, and it's the prices just keep going up on everything.
Yeah,
so
it's not simple. It's like people always, want certain things. I mean, we make our amps here, but it's hard. It's hard. I mean, especially in California. Oh my God. I mean,
just
labor rates and everything else, and
totally.
And all whatever other fees that are some government agency is trying to charge you.
Yes. Oh yeah,
it's hard. It's hard to do. I mean, I understand why companies like PV stop production in the US.
Yeah.
And they were the company that did production in the US at a low cost forever, really well. Did it really well for a long time until they couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. So I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's
okay. Well, we should wrap this up. I guess our last question is, what's your favorite piece of RJM gear that you use the most?
Putting you on the spot.
Oh man, I mean, I use a lot of it. I mean, the GT22 maybe we use a lot. Any of the floor controllers. Mostly I use the big one. Most of the rigs that we do. I do love the small one though. I think that's awesome, and I think the fact that you put the channel switching port on it for amps and stuff, that was
on the
mini whatever
mini effect gizmo.
The
Mastermind LT.
LT, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Most people still don't know about the LT. It's like we decided to take all the screens out and everything, and same brains and put it in there, and I feel like it never got the love.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, that's really useful for it should actually.
It's got the editor. It has everything.
It should, because you think of all the other pedals out there that are doing stuff. Hey, I got this small pedal that controls my Strymon stuff or my this or that, and like the what's the Morningstar or those kind of companies. Can't think of all of them right now.
Yeah, well, and I think that's a lot of it too. There is more competition on the lower end, where no one else is really crazy enough to do something like a GT22, and
but we were talking. It's like, well, you're going to do some updates to that stuff, aren't you?
I'm always doing stuff.
Doing stuff.
It's been out 12 years, we think.
I know. It's
we're talking to Petrucci's tech, and they've got like one of the first 10, and they've been using it ever since. So
it's amazing to think it's been that long already. But well, it just seems like I've never really finished it really, because I just keep doing software updates,
keep adding, you keep adding and adding and adding.
It's never
but you keep remodeling the house, and then eventually it gets to the point where I just got to tear down the house and make a new one.
It's
unfortunately
it's definitely that it's definitely a whole different thing, because prior to that it was things like Effect Gizmo and all that. I don't really need to change that. It just kind of does what it does, and I redid it once, but it doesn't need multiple firmware updates a year or anything like that. It just kind of does it. So it's a whole different game, but that's kind of the appeal of it, though, is people have had it, and they can keep they need a new feature, we try to get it in if we can. So.
Yeah, it makes it confusing. The thing I've learned, your stuff can do anything and everything.
Kitchen sink.
But when it starts to get confusing, even for me, it's like, wait, that's when I call you.
Yeah. Well,
how the hell do you do this again? Please.
Yeah, it's it's a tough thing because it's like, I wanted to be able to be really capable and do this stuff.
Yes.
And of course also responding to, all sorts of people's requests. Like, I wanted to do this, I needed to do this. And so it's like, how do you make something that has that many options and parameters and all that, and and still make it make it presentable and to the user. And it's like, how do you how do you balance
he finally had to do like he did 22 short videos on YouTube, kind of going through like just some of the features.
Well,
and
that's great. That helps a lot. That helps
Yeah.
a lot, and that's really important. It's like when they want to know how to do specific things.
Well, we've had a lot of techs that have used it for years, and that they'll like all of a sudden need it, and they'll go back to it, and they actually will watch the videos to kind of refresh how to use it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. Just I guess it's only so much time I can spend answering tech support. I mean, you like me understand doing being like basically doing all your I know you do all your own support and everything.
I do all my own tech support. Because I think I mentioned it before when I think we might have been talking on our Tone Talk or something, but so if I have someone else do it, if they don't know a lot, and quite a bit, I almost need an amp tech to do it. That customer service guy is going to ask me. And then I'm going to have to answer it anyway. And at that point, why didn't I just answer it to begin with? Because it takes up the same amount of time.
Yeah. I've got a friend who helps part-time with the support stuff, and he's pretty good. He's especially now that he's been doing it for a couple of years, he's gotten can do most of it. He's not fully nerd enabled yet. We haven't gotten to like detailed GT programming. That stuff still gets kicked to me, but it is nice to have someone who's he has his own studio, and he so he knows the audio side of things, and he knows MIDI and all. But it's tough though, 'cause it's like the questions can be very complex.
Yeah, and Ron he likes having all the features in there.
Well, it's like, if you're gonna do it,
I get it, and that's perfectly fine. And then, but there's a whole also set of guitar players and stuff out there, if we're just talking guitar players, that are not capable of dealing with that. Let's put it nicely. And they're just not. It's just not. They want simplistic. Some simplistic stuff that works for them.
Yeah, I mean, and that's certainly the case. I mean, certainly there's all sorts of different kinds of players, and you got they're just straight in and turn it up all the way to the massive complex, using Ableton and plugins and all that stuff. And so we're just
I don't even want to know. the older I get, I think the less I want to know.
Hey, you got a good you got a good domain for yourself, the cool amps and all. You don't have to do everything. You just are good at what you're doing, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's I feel sometimes your brain gets so full that there's no more room. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's overflowing already, and it's like I don't want to learn how to do that. I just don't.
I'm starting to find the limits. Yeah, where there's certain like kind of every once in a while I kind of like want to branch off into yet another direction. It's like maybe I shouldn't do that, or maybe I don't have any
else to do it for me.
I don't have any more processing power or memory or something like that to take on another whole domain of knowledge or something. So I gotta choose my battles wisely.
All right. Well, I'm gonna wrap this up.
We don't
All
have the stamina that you guys at Tone Talk have here. We're still newbies, so we're good with our shows.
Yes, yes.
A lot of times
Anyway.
our shows we get talking and an hour goes by so fast we hadn't even talked about anything yet.
Oh, wow.
That's how that works. And it's like the amount of questions and super chats we get takes up a lot of the show too, you know, and it's like it happens.
Well, we appreciate you being on for our second live stream and Ron being able to geek out. There's nobody for him to geek out. I mean, we're just so far out of LA, you know, down in San Diego, that he never gets a chance to geek anymore. So
right.
It's a sad thing, but that's what that's what Zoom and live streams and all that are for. So
there you go.
It all works.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, thanks, Dave. And
yeah, thanks, man. We appreciate it. Helping
us
launch this and all the help you've given us over the years and all.
Yeah, of course. And you know, we're still buying stuff. We're still getting stuff.
We appreciate that. Got to keep the rigs getting built.
All right. Well,
absolutely.
All right. Stay tuned. Next week, same bat time, same bat channel. We'll be back with another guitar tech. So,
who's that?
I think Tom Weber.
I know Tom.
Yeah, Tom Weber. I know he was with I don't know who all
he's with Van Halen. He was with Van Halen for a lot,
for a long time. And
tell him hi.
I shall
talked to him in a long time.
Yeah. So anyway,
awesome.
All right. Well, we'll see you all next week.
All right. We'll see you guys later.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
Bye.
All right. Take care.